Hi, welcome to another episode of Today's Treasures. I'm Margaret. This is my apartment. I'm an artist living in Old Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm a collector as well. And I thought today would be a good time to start perhaps looking at some of my books. And so I'm going to give you a little overview of some of my collection. And if you see a shelf that you're more curious about, or you see some authors that you want to see more about the books, comment below and I will do another episode of that shelf. Otherwise, today we're just going to do a kind of an overview, and then I'm going to show you maybe one shelf or a small selection of the pieces. So let's get started here. We're going to come around here and I'm going to give you a quick little peruse through. It's a few of my art books. I have a whole selection of art books which is in my studio, which we can do on another day. Here's the Harry Potter collection, of course. Everyone's got to have that. But my bookshelves are so full that I often have to stack books, which we've got quite a few stacked around here. These are stacked all the way up to my motto collection, which I have such an affinity for vintage paper. That's one of my paintings up there. Antique paintings, or antique paper. That's another one of my paintings. But I really love these old mottos. So one day we might do a video about antique mottos. But this shelf here contains all my miniatures, or some small books. Technically a miniature has to be 3 inches or under. So there are some here that are just small, but not miniature technically. And these go all the way down. They range in age from the turn of the century up to modern times, like some of these little Mary Engelbreit books. Those are a little more modern. And then if you come around here, these are a little kind of a collection of books authors I really enjoy reading. Charles Bukowski, some children's books from my childhood, as well as children's books that I really admire, the illustrations, and then Hunter S. Thompson. I've got a bunch of those, of course. And these come down. There's more Hunter Thompson. And then kind of a selection of The Little House. Loved that book as a kid. Of other important works, and works that I just have an affinity for the illustrations on. And these kind of come down and go around here. Some more art books. And then there's this case here which has some special books in it. This one's terrific and has amazing illustrations, so we could look at that one day. And then this comes around here to my earlier books. Most of these are not only the bindings are what I was in love with, but also really early illustrations. And that's something I want to bring up right at the beginning here. I see a lot of videos, people talking about or commenting, oh, you should be wearing gloves when handling those books. No, you shouldn't. And if you want to look it up, the Library of Congress will tell you that more books are damaged by people wearing gloves than without. Your hands should just be washed and clean and dry, and that's enough. Handling them with gloves, you can't really feel the pages, and things get torn, things get ripped, and the gloves hold dirt, so you often can do much more damage than without. There's Catcher in the Rye, one of my favorite books ever. To Kill a Mockingbird, that's a first edition. Some more early Hell's Angels hardcover from Hunter S. Thompson. So anyway, just keep that in mind, that wearing gloves is actually a no-no. Unless you're handling, an Ansel Adams photographic folio, that you might want to wear gloves with, but most of us are not going to be handling that kind of book. And then these go around here. So that's really good news, though, for book collectors, because in addition to the contents and the illustrations, and the way they smell and the way they look, You know, collecting books is a very tactile experience. You want to be able to hold them and touch them and feel the paper. And the truth of the matter is, you can. So don't be fooled into believing that you're supposed to always wear gloves when handling vintage and antique books. It's not the case, okay? So that's this shelf, and then this goes around, and I have these smaller, there's a few miniatures in here, but most of these are just small size technically. Like I said, miniature has to be under 3 inches, so you can see that these are more like 4, 5, 6-inch books. There's a whole collection of Joe and Wash England. I just had an affinity for those. These are really beautiful bindings on these little French books here. And that comes down here. And then we'll do my mantle one day, which is an entirely different category. But it's great to know that you're allowed to enjoy your books without having to glove your hands. This is a great book. That's the first edition from Kandinsky on art. It's a great book. And then this dictionary of abstract art. That's a really great book. We'll look at that one day. And then there's some books down here. This old rotary dial phone. That was my grandmother's phone. It doesn't. It's not actually hooked up, but anyway. So this comes around, and so what I'm going to do, and there's some more books here. So as you can see, we have a lot of books that we can look through. So I think today, though, we're just going to pick a few specific choices off of here, and I'm just going to call this like shelf 1 or something like that. And we're just going to pick a few that have really great illustrations or really wonderful bindings, and maybe talk about a little bit about what they are, why I've collected them. And then I said in an earlier video that I have an affinity for antique linens. This is another example of that. So we're just gonna put that there. We're gonna come over here and we're gonna pick something. So let's see, where do we want to begin? Let's move. I love these books that have to do. Let's take this one. This is a fun example. We're going to put that down. Let's come over here. This is just a beautiful example. This is a book called Saints in Art. The binding is just gorgeous. Nice rough cut edge pages. We might take a little look at that one. Put that down too. And then let's move this over. This one's gorgeous. I already know we're going to look at this one, so let's just put that down in our selection. This is a Best Tales for Children. A lot of my books have children's themes to them, just because the illustrators that worked for some of these worked on some of these books were just phenomenal. This is a really interesting book. We're going to take a look at that as well. Women in the Scriptures. That's an early book. I'm going to move this over. This is a really great book here. This is the Red Indian Fairy book. So we're going to put that down. We'll take a look at that. What's that give us? 2, 4, 6 books. How about we do 8, huh? This one's so cool. Look at the cover on this sucker. It's called The Book of Romance. The bindings, the hinges are cracked on this, but it's got nice gilt edge pages. All right, okay, we'll look at this one. That's really gorgeous. And then we'll do one more. What do we want? How about this Alice in Wonderland here? Okay, so we'll start with these. And like I said, if you saw anything specific on these shelves, an author or a title that you would like to do, we could do an entire shelf. We could do this whole shelf, or do maybe 2 of the miniature shelves, or some of these others. That would be fine and kind of fun. But let's today focus on these. So, what do we got here? This is kind of a funny edition. It's actually based on the, well, here, I'll just show you. All right, so this is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass. It's in really nice shape. The hinges are intact. It's not cracked. Let's open this up here and take a look at what you're going to find. Got these crazy illustrations here. Grosset and Dunlap published this particular edition. This is complete in one volume, so there's not multiple volumes of this, but it's a play, and its images inside are put together that way. So like when you find, let me see if we can find one here. And this is in really great shape. But look at this. Here's one. It's a big caterpillar, the blue caterpillar on the mushroom, but it's like live action photographic illustrations, which is much different than what we're so familiar with in the obviously Disney and other the original publishing of Alice in Wonderland had much different illustrations. So these are kind of fun to see. Here's one. That's Tweedledee and Tweedledum under a great big umbrella with this actress, posing for the photographs. But the story is the original story in the original form. There's Tweedledee and Tweedledum again. This is a very unusual edition of this book. It's just so much fun to see. And there's one. We'll look at one more illustration from this, and then we'll move on to another one. We don't want to spend all of our time on one book. This one's great. This one there's Alice. Gosh, they're obviously on the chessboard with the king and queen. There's the rabbit. So this is a really fun example, and it's in really nice shape. You can see the spine has a little bit of dirt, no major damage. Nice. The corners are a little bumped, but not bad. Nice sharpness to them still. So that's example one. Let's see what else we want to look at. This is such a gorgeous binding. I love these embossed covers with the gold. I mean, they just are so stunning to look at. This one's the Book of Romance by Andrew Lang. And if you open this up, you can see that the front hinges are cracked and that the end papers are coming loose. But the end papers are showing knights slaying a dragon and the damsel in distress over here and coming to save her. Let's see, they've got the original owner's name in there. I love finding ones. I know a lot of people like them to be super clean, but I like ones that have the original information in them, especially if they're done in like a calligraphy sort of script, which I do have several examples of. But look how terrific these illustrations are. I mean, that frontispiece is beautiful. And then it's got the nice tissue cover to keep it from transferring onto the title page. This was printed in 1902, and the illustrations are by H.J. Ford. Let's double check our date to make sure there's not a reprint date. No, there's not. So this was actually printed in 1902. And then let's take a quick look and see if we can. There are black and white illustrations through here as well, which is always a nice addition to these kinds of books. Here's another full page illustration. Another slaying of the serpent on this one. Let's see, do we have any more color ones in this one? This is gorgeous. This is Sir Galahad opening the tomb. And this one is just profusely illustrated all the way throughout. There's hardly any pages you go past that aren't illustrated with these beautiful Illustrations by Ford. Just gorgeous. And it's just so wonderful to get to experience these and feel them. I mean, look how beautifully done these are. Now, sometimes when these books like these are really badly damaged, you know, I remove the images and use them in other ways. But this one, the binding is still intact, even though the hinges are cracked in the front. This is Merlin and Vivian. That's Stormy. She's thinking about jumping up here. Let's hope she doesn't. But if she does, oh, there she goes. Just ignore the cat. This is really great. The death of, I can't hardly read that, Batan and Batan. So this book is beautiful. Even though it does have a little damage here to the spine, I still absolutely adore that book. Terrific example. This one is the Red Indian Fairy book by Frances Jenkins Olcott. The hinges are intact here. This has a wonderful scripted dedication in the front. And let's take a look. There's our first illustration. This is just beautiful. And this was published by the Houghton Mifflin Company. And it's full of children's stories. This one is copyright 1917. You'll notice the date twice. So this is a first edition. And this is a great little dedication from the author to Robert Gates Phillips, who loved Indian stories. So this book is going to be filled with wonderful stories about Indians, which is a terrific find. And the illustrations are fabulous, as you would expect. Let's see, what else do we have? There's more illustrations in through the pages as well, at the beginning of individual stories. And then, let's see. Oh, I found one. Let's go back and see what, feel it. Yeah, and that's another thing. You wouldn't be able to feel it if you were wearing your gloves. You would not be able to tell where your illustration was. I lost it. But, let's see. It's got little rough cut edge pages. There's one. Let's see what it looks like here. So this is really beautiful. They're throughout the book. And this one, I forgot to mention, which shame on me, who the illustrator was on this one. Let's see. The illustrator is Frederick Richardson. So another terrific early first edition example. I'll put that over here next to Stormy. All right, what do we got next? This one is Best Tales for Children. Let's open this. It has end papers, printed end papers, with these little fairies flying around with a bird. Love these. This illustration. This looks very 1920s to me. So you can see here. Let's see what we've got as a date. This is by Mary Dickerson Donahue, illustrated by Uldine Tripp. Let's see what the date is on this guy. 1924. So this is a second printing of the first edition. And let's see what we've got as far as illustrations go in this one. Wonderful. Stories of the Garden Wall. I really love 1920s illustrations. They just have such an aesthetic to them that it's very distinctive to the time period. And they really stand out that way. Even the The little ones at the ends of chapters are really charming. Let's see if we have another big one. There's one. Little children in the back of the wagon. And oh, look at this one. How great is that? The falling stars could be seen, and each star is an individual. So this would be a really great story to read. I haven't read this one. Talks about the star babies. So this is a terrific example here. And the end hinges are still intact here. This is a great example. Spine's in pretty good shape too. So another fabulous children's book. Let's see what else we've got here. This one is great. This is my poetry book for for boys and girls. I'm going to take a look inside here. Let's take this out. Don't need that in there. This is printed end papers with floral sprays on them, and look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This is by Grace Thompson Hufford and Laura Mae Carlisle in collaboration with Helen Ferris. Oh, and an introduction by Booth Tarkington, who was a Louisville author, and illustrated by Willie Pogane. He's a real famous illustrator. Let's see what we've got here for illustrations. I'm sure there often is a list in the front of all the illustrations. This is so cute. Oh, and we forgot to look at, let's check that real quick. What's our date on this one? This is printed in 1934, and that's the only date. So this is the first edition. It's a wonderful little beginning there. And let's see if we can find some more of these wonderful illustrations. What have we got here? Look at this one. A lot of times these earlier books would have had these illustrations tipped in, so they would have been kind of glued in place, if you will, tacked in place. These are actually full page color illustrations on these. Look how cute that is. Adorable. And then on the other pages, they are small little poems, easy ones to read for children. Who loves the rain and loves his home and looks on life with quiet eyes. Him will I follow through the storm, and at his hearth fire keep me warm. Nor hell nor heaven shall thy soul surprise, who loves the rain and loves his home and looks on life with quiet eyes. So this is another lovely first edition children's book. We're going to put that one over here. Now this book, let's do this one real quick, because this one, I don't remember. Oh, I have an affinity for these puzzle books. This one's 1953, and it's called Everything's a Puzzle. Everything's a Puzzle. And the whole thing is full of all these terrific rebus type things and other games and puzzles you'll see in later videos. I have a lot of books like these. The illustrations are terrific. The puzzles are fun and different. I would try to, I don't want to embarrass myself, try to solve one real quick. But anyway, these are really a lot of fun, and I'll explain more about these type of books in a future episode, but I have a lot more of those. Now this book, this is probably the earliest book here. You can see it's got a nice embossed gilded cover with raised spine here. It's called Women in the Scriptures. Both sides are beautiful. It's a leather bound, and it feels wonderful on your hands. My hands are clean and dry, so it's safe to handle. Love when the interior embossing continues on the inside. This has a little bit of script here. You see this page has a tear to it, but that's okay on a book like this, of this age. This one's all right. The binding's intact, the hinges are intact. Let's take a look here and see how great these engravings are. This is Women of the Scripture by Reverend Hastings Weld, published in Philadelphia. Let's see if we have a date back here. Yeah, 1848. And this is the only date present. So this book is a first edition printed in 1848. And the condition is just stellar. With the exception of the end paper being torn. Other than that, it's great. And you can see the edges. It's got gilded edges. And a little tear to this back end paper. And some writing to the inside of the cover. It looks like somebody's child did those lovely writings. But the interior is filled with these gorgeous engravings. They've got tissue covers on each of them to prevent them from transferring to the opposite page. And let's see if we can see another one. I mean, these are just beautiful. Gorgeous. This is a great book. This is probably one of the earliest books in my collection. 1848, is that what I said? Yeah, look at this one. The majority of them are going to be, late 1800s. So this one at 1848 is pretty early. And it's just in such exquisite condition for that age. Look at that. Isn't that something? And I just love when the tissues are present still. A lot of times those got torn out or damaged. Just gorgeous example. And then each image is followed with a story about whoever the image is of. So this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. Nice. And the binding is just phenomenally great. I mean, look at that. All gilded edges all the way around. So this is a terrific example. I love that book. All right, and then last but not least for today, we're going to look at Saints in Art. This is a nice embossed gilded cover, rough cut edge papers. Oh, this has a wonderful note in it. I love when there's personalization like this in script. This one's dated 1900. So let's take a quick look here and see. Here we go. Saints in Art, Boston by L.C. Page and Company. And this one is dated 1899. Check the back here. 1899. So this is a first edition. Look at this great engraving here. Isn't that pretty? St. Margaret. Hey, that's my name. And then it doesn't say who the engravings are by. Unless there's a little contents. Here they are. Oh, there they are. So here's your illustrations all throughout. The frontispiece we were just looking at of St. Margaret, and then you can see how many more are contained in this book. There are a lot. It continues here and over here. So pretty much a nice tight hinges again, clean end papers, the binding's intact. This is another terrific example of an early book in really great shape. Here's another one. Although 1899 is still early, but look at this one, is great. Just beautiful. Mary Magdalene at the house of Simon. Let's see here. St. Lucia. So this is just the beginning of sharing my book collection with you. Next time I'll either pick whatever someone suggests we look at a little closer, or I will continue doing the same sort of thing, and we'll pick a stack from the shelf and explore it. This is what we've looked at today, and I look forward to picking more from the shelf or from this shelf. There's lots to see. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.